Hello everyone, today we're discussing key messaging when talking to the media. And Peter, there's three basic types of messages. There's the incident message, the corporate message and the personal message.
Yes, so first up we should emphasise that key messages are really important because the pressure on good communication is so high now. And if you're, say, going on television or going into a newspaper, you're appearing before or you're presenting your argument to hundreds of thousands of people. And so it's really worthwhile to work on getting it in. And the second is, as you know, you've got very limited time to get your message across.
7 to 10 seconds usually. One quote, one grab, 21 to 30 words. So it's cutthroat. You don't get much time at all.
3 words a second. So it's really worthwhile planning what you want to say. The other thing that's important is often you have various spokespeople, and a political party is the classic, where in an election where everybody's got to be on the same message. And it can sound fake if it's not done properly, and we can talk about that, but the value of it is if you think about your messaging, you can get the mixture of your genuine, your authenticity, and actually crafting the words you want to use to display that in a fairly constrained environment.
Unity of message, very important. It doesn't happen. So many organisations get it wrong, and political parties get it wrong, and
yeah, notably, yes,
absolutely,
all the time.
So let's break these three messages down. Let's put this into a scenario. Unfortunately, we've seen too much of this in recent years, and that's abuse of elderly people in aged care facilities. It's abhorrent, it's an awful thing, going through a Royal Commission at the moment. So let's break that down into these three messages.
Okay.
How would we do that?
So the first message is the message that everyone's going to want to hear. And hopefully, and again, it's got to be authentic, but hopefully, as the spokesperson, you have a message of regret for what's happened. I am absolutely appalled by the allegation, and we're going to turn this place upside down to investigate what's happened. That's a very basic message, and we call that the incident message. And it's a good message, and it's a message that people want to hear, particularly the people who are most important, and that is the person and the family who's suffered, the internal staff who will be traumatised by the allegation, the good staff, and other people who are relevant to the home, you know, other families, other residents. So that's your first key message. But there's another message that people often forget and a journalist will rarely ask, and that is the corporate message, the company message. And so it's really valuable to try and weave in to that message, the incident message, hopefully of regret, something like, we have dedicated an enormous amount to looking after the 300 people in our care. Something like that. You've got to somehow weave in a message that is broader than just a message of regret, and that's the company message. The reason it's important to say you've got to get the company messages in is you'll rarely be asked that question. Tell us about the company when the story's about the abuse.
So it's about breaking down the company's core values.
Yeah, so you're trying to work into the message. We're absolutely appalled by what's happened. We as an organisation have dedicated ourselves to doing the very best we can to care for the elderly, and that's why it's such a shock to us. That adds extra meat on the bone, if you like, to the message.
And the third message, the personal message, how do you weave that in there? What's that about?
So there's a third message. Again, you'll very rarely be asked about this, but the third message is the personal message, and that gives it a real authenticity. And again, it's got to be genuine. A con person will always come through as a con person. What do they say? You can fool some of the people all the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. A personal message might be, as CEO, I've dedicated 25 years of my life to caring for the elderly. And we've worked for people in the disability sector and in the elderly care sector. And people who actually do rise through the ranks have a unique quality because they do genuinely care, in my experience, for the work that they
Absolutely.
do. And so if you can work this in, that I've dedicated 25 years of my life to caring for people. I am devastated by this news. And somehow work that into your message. And again, you've got to, which is why it's important to write down key messages. As you said, you've got 21 to 30 words in a television news grab, and it's about the same for a newspaper grab. So crafting it is really important. The incident message, the corporate message, and the personal message, if you can wrap them into one message and then make it a repetitive theme through the conversation with the journalist, then you're really getting a long way towards nailing how to make key messages really effective.
Really good advice, Peter, thank you. There's key messaging when talking to the media.